Hinkson, and I played Jenna. In Bachelorette, I played by Leslie Headland, as well as co-produced the show.
I'm Dave Tompa, I directed it.
I'm Lucie Guest, and I played Katie, as well as co-produced the show.
And we're going to talk about Bachelorette.
Tell us about Bachelorette.
Wow. Okay. Bachelorette is about a night, the night before this woman is going to get married, Becky. And her maid of honor, Regan, decides to throw a bit of a party in the hotel room that's been generously given to her by the bride, Becky. So she invites their two old friends, Katie and Jenna, over. But Katie and Jenna are known to be partiers and kind of go kind of crazy. And the night goes a little crazy from there. And there are drugs and alcohol, sex, a lot of things go a little bonkers. And then the bride comes in towards the end and having no idea that these girls are there. And all this old stuff kind of comes out from their past. And things get brought up that they probably should have addressed a long time ago. It's a dark comedy. It's with the emphasis on dark.
Dark.
Very dark, but very hilarious.
What was the best part of filming Bachelorette? Or, sorry, not filming, but producing Bachelorette?
It was so much fun. It was like planning a big party. And we're really excited about everybody, the ensemble that I got to work with, my cast, director, and as well as working with Lucie for the first time. And we've known each other for years, but we haven't actually worked together before. And it was fun putting everything together and all these big outrageous ideas. And we laughed so much. There was some crying. There was mostly laughter, and who doesn't love laughing? So,
is the play very close to the movie?
The play is, there's similarities in both. Leslie Headland, I was watching an interview with her, who wrote both the screenplay and the play. She specifically wrote a screenplay that was a version of the play or like inspired by the play that was separate than the play, in hopes that maybe one day somebody would want to make it into a movie, and that day came. So she was like, oh, and by the way, I have this screenplay. So there's extra characters in the movie, of course the characters that are in the play are also in the movie, and they all have similarities. The part that I play in the play, her name is Katie, and in the movie that was played by Isla Fisher, and there's a lot of similarities. She's also barfing all over the place, so there's similarities, but there's differences.
Now, how long did it run here in Toronto?
there were 5 shows only. So we ran Tuesday through Saturday. There was no matinees, and it was like bang, done, pop-up theater, and we're out.
Yeah.
What are plans for the future?
For the future, I'm not sure. I mean, we were very successful in terms of we oversold the show every single night. I think the theater, if it's set up very properly, sits about 50 people or something like that. So not a ton, but she can expand it up to 65, she said even. And on closing night, we had 77 people in there.
Yeah.
It was a bit insane. So I don't know. Is there a possibility of remounting it? Sure, absolutely. It's something that we've sort of teased about, but we haven't really sat down and talked about that. But it's something that we should consider because it did quite well.
Now, it's only shown in Canada here in Toronto, or has it also shown in other cities?
As far as I know, when we were looking into buying the rights, it hadn't been done in Toronto yet.
Yeah.
But any company can buy the rights and put up the play. We were happy to. One of the reasons why I really wanted to do Bachelorette is having been in the theater world for a long time in Vancouver and Toronto. I'm new, but in Vancouver and studied theater for a long time. You see a lot of. I love comedy, and you see a lot of John Patrick Shanley, or you see a lot of the usual suspects that are great writing, and obviously you want to put this play up. And originally, why what this play came to us from our teacher, Ben Ratner from Vancouver. And I asked him, I said, I want to do a comedy, but I want it to be dark and layered and have some heart to it, but not be John Patrick Shanley, not because I don't love him, but because I've seen it done so many times. Because eventually I was hoping if it went well that we could then put it up in Toronto. And Jess and I workshopped it, and it went really, really well. And we thought, okay, well, let's put on this play written by a female playwright that's super dark but really funny, and it hasn't been done yet. So that was an exciting thing for us, to put up something that you haven't seen done a few times over the years. So I think I got sidetracked, but basically when we looked to buy the rights, we were quite kind of pleased to see that nobody else had put it up yet.
In Canada.
Yeah,
in Toronto,
Canada,
but
yeah.
in the States, I mean, it had a run in New York.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
LA, the first one was in LA, I think. But.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's now, I mean, there are some people now who are doing it, like I saw for Fringe in the States, you know. So it's definitely, and I'm sure in the next year or so that there's going to be a lot more companies that are doing it. I mean, it's new content. It's fresh. It's a new baby. So, and it's exciting because it's relevant to present day, you know, and it's an hour-long dark comedy, which is ideal, I think, and perfect.
A movie like Bridesmaids opened a door to a new trend going on with, you know, a new format of, I'm not sure if I should call it woman empowerment, but it's definitely seeing women in a new light and seeing women not being afraid of being raunchy.
Yeah.
How would you say your show compares?
Our show is super raunchy. I mean, but it's raunchy in a way that people are raunchy. I mean, that's how people are. And I think the only difference is whether or not we reveal these things to mainstream audiences. And so that's something that's becoming profitable, I suppose, because generally big budget films are driven by money and perceived want. The Bridesmaids sort of opened the door for that. It sort of showed that a female-driven comedy is something that can make money and something that mainstream audiences want to see and want to laugh at. It's not that I think people are behaving differently in their lives. It's just that we can look at that and not be afraid of it anymore and just enjoy it and revel in it. And there's that whole thing, like, oh, there's stuff you don't want to show, like, when you're first dating someone, you get yourself all ready before, and then you show up, and so you're always putting yourself best foot forward. And then as you get to know them well, you show the other stuff. And if they like you and if they love you, then they won't care, because it's human. We all have that stuff. So I think that's a decent analogy. It's like, oh yeah, women can be crass, women can be vulgar, and they can be hilarious. Of course, they have always been all these things. It's just what do we show as to the mainstream, as a general public. So thank God we're able to see all these things.
Very good. Would you like to comment on that, on the new format?
I'm good with David's
Yeah, I mean, I like the analogy. I feel like the same thing. I mean, the only thing that's what you're hearing a lot of is, oh, female, there's a lot more females in comedy. Females have always been funny and females have always been in comedy. Some of my, favorite comedians are from, 30 years ago. And it's just that, with movies like Bridesmaids, it's unique because it's a strong, all the lead cast are females, and they're very funny, and it made a ton of money. And so, there's this whole thing that, oh, we can fund these movies or these productions where, the leads are females and they're funny and it sells. So I think it's just kind of opening up the door for more projects to be funded. But they've always been around and they're always going to be around. And so it just kind of opened up a door, possibly helped us sell out a show, 5 nights in a row, because, people say, can say, oh, when was the last time I saw this comedy where there was like a strong female cast, and it was really funny, and they can think back to all the movies that they're starting to see now, and maybe that helps bring people into the theater. Who knows? But
well, I'm sure our viewers right now are thinking, are they going to like put it in production? How and when can I see this again? Or if see it altogether?
Right.
In my living room.
I don't know.
What?
Right now, there's no plan to do it again, but yeah, it was very successful in terms of selling tickets, and so will we remount it at some point? That's a possibility. We'll just have to discuss it and then keep people informed about it.
Yes, please do keep us informed.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, what I want to know next is Bachelorette. So, Lucie, you played Katie, and tell us about Katie. What was her little quirks and what made her so special?
Well, Katie, like a few of us, everybody besides the bride, the females, I think, it's just before she turns 30, and it's sort of that awakening of, oh my gosh, I'm almost 30 and I'm still living at home and not married. And that was her big thing. A lot of sort of, there's this idea, sort of like growing up that when you're, with all your girlfriends, you're thinking like, your to-do list of goals, and it's sort of like, but of course I'll be married before I'm 30. It's like this big thing. And so she's almost 30 and she's realizing she's nowhere close to being married. And still living at home and still working in retail. And she was sort of the prom queen growing up, and sort of that was her claim to fame was, this is obviously my interpretation of it, was her claim to fame was sort of like she, peaked in high school and is kind of still trying to get back to those days where it was, exciting and possibility, and all of a sudden you look and time's flown by and where you thought you'd be, you're not. And I think to cover a lot of that sort of, she drinks is her gluttony, is her a way of sort of covering that reality. And so Katie gets quite drunk in the play as the play progresses. And Dave was a huge instrumental part in toning the drunk, because I think at our first read-through I was drunk off the gate. And he was like, oh, okay, and he kept, he was like the biggest thing Dave would always do. Tone it down, or whatever, in your words, obviously. But I was like falling over in the first read. He's like, okay, but people need to hear you talk. But now, as the show went on, you see Katie take this sort of, journey into being so drunk that she basically can't walk almost. Isla Fisher plays, as we were saying, Katie in the movie, and I think she basically throws up on screen a few times, and same thing, Katie in the play definitely gets to throw up a few times.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just fun to do. Really audible sounds it was pretty gross, but also awesome to hear an audience just be so vocal. And especially in the last night, I made sure to like hold a lot of soup in my mouth. And I remember the audible sound, and I couldn't really see because I was passed out at one point. Just the like disgust,
Not really passed
and just the disgust from the audience. And afterwards, sometimes people were like, "I didn't like the barf." They're like, especially my Katie's mom. She's like, "You were great, but the barf. I'm gonna go wash my daughter's dress." It was really disgusting by the barf.
Yeah, it's actually been exhausting for you as an actor too.
Yeah, it was it was a workout every night. I felt, I felt exhausted at the end, but excited. So it was weird.
Kate, and what about you, Jessica?
I played the role of Jenna, who is Katie's best friend. I was Becky's, who is the bride-to-be's best friend as well, and the maid of honor, but got demoted because of an unfortunate situation. And then also good friends with Regan, and I'm kind of the glue of all of these relationships. And Jenna is extremely complex, I don't identify with that at all. And she's a layered character. You know, her vice, you know, everyone, as we've been talking about, had a vice in the show, or each character did. You know, yeah, it was cocaine, but it was alcohol, it was smoking, it was whatever was going was her vice to keep going to cover all the time, because she's a strong personality. Some people would describe her as being angry. I say passionate. And if you're going to look at an archetype of what type of character she was, I would be the mom, you know, who's constantly taking care of her best friend and making sure that everything's going smoothly, like, and trying to make sure that she doesn't get too low, but also trying to control herself and not, Jenna controlling herself and not allowing too much emotion to come up, because we can't go there. It can't be about, you know, whether it's a broken heart or, you know, Katie's depressed, I can't let her go down because we got to have the party. It's about the party. And especially in the last half of the play, when I come in and she's passed out and these two strange men are holding her up, she's half naked, it's, you know, go in and save. And it was also very physical for me, moving Lucie around every single night. I was like, you gotta help me here, you gotta help me a little bit, you know, and throwing things at some of these strangers that were picked up, and giving everybody, you know, hella, and singing to her, trying to wake her up. I mean, it was just whatever you would do for that friend, you know. I love you, I hate you, you're my sister, but I'm like your mother, you're my daughter. It was interesting. And then, you know, Jenna also likes to have fun, and she's vulgar and raunchy, and she's everything. She's whatever she is in the moment. She's exactly how Leslie described her, which is that she's like a bossy sort of 5-year-old, you know, who's just from moment to moment, like children are, is very, I'm this, in this moment I'm that, and the next moment, which is angry, sad, happy, whatever, and just going to her own beat. I have bruises everywhere from the lugging around and the running into the tables and So it was fun. That was a loaded answer.
So David, how was it directing both actresses, both Lucie and Jessica?
It was great. It was awesome. It's I've directed a lot of indie theater, and generally what happens is someone approaches me about directing something. So the first thing I do is they'll give me a script and read it and see if I'm inspired by it. So Lucie brought me the script and approached me about directing it, and I read it and I was like, I think I have to do this one. It's great. So I knew Lucie a little bit. She's pretty new from Vancouver, and I've known Jessica for a few years now, also from Vancouver, but she's been here a little longer. And they sort of had a cast already assembled, with the exception of one character, so I brought one guy in for that. And it was kind of perfect. Each of them knew their character already, where they were already, most of the work was done just with the casting that they'd done for themselves and with their friends. And that's most of the work right there, is to make sure that, you know, it's lined up, that the person you're going to play is something that is in your wheelhouse. Or you can not do it, but then it's a lot more work. But as a director, it's way easier if they're already like halfway there. And in both their cases, and in really all the actors' cases, they were halfway there. No, it's just a matter of reassuring them that all that weird stuff that comes out is usable, and not only usable, but like that's the gold stuff. All the stuff that you try to hide is what people want to see. It's the magic, and they're both very willing participants in that rehearsal process. And yeah, we made a lot of messes and tried a lot of different things, and so it was super fun.
Well, we already heard that the audience didn't like the barfing.
Depending on the audience.
I loved the puke.
Well, what's interesting is that you hear they're the laughs where the whole audience laughs as a big like audience, but then there are the laughs at the different kinds of jokes, right? So it's like these five people love poop jokes, I guess. So they'll laugh at that. These 5 people love the barf jokes. These these people don't like that. So they'll read it, no, like that. So it's always fascinating to hear what the response of the audience is and the different people within the audience.
Okay, and you said that the audience loved it. Did you get a lot of feedback?
Yes.
Yeah, we did. We got a lot of feedback. I mean, I think the biggest feedback for us was that we sold out every night, and that, as Dave was saying, the very last night we somehow managed to fit 77 people in a 50-person theater or whatever. And so that for us was the biggest sort of positive feedback I think we could take. And besides that, I mean, a lot of we had a couple bloggers come in, and one of the things that they were saying is that don't necessarily see a lot of plays. They were saying this is something that I think you should remount, or one, you should have went for longer. And who knows? I mean, sometimes we're thinking because we only did 5 nights really quickly, is that why we sold out? But you just never know, I guess. You always have to take a chance in the beginning of a production. But she was saying it's really relevant to our generation and, relatable. And she was hoping that we would remount it and maybe, get it out more to the sort of general public that they can see, because a lot of the advertising was sort of within our community, and for the most part, word of mouth is why I think people came back. And some people came back a couple times. One person came and saw the show 3 times. Wow. That I don't even know.
You're not talking about me.
No, I know the director. You did as well.
Well, it was kind of happening.
You have to. His name was David Tompa, and he also directed. So it was great to see. A few people came a couple nights in a row, which was great. So I think that for me was a huge feedback. And then for the, David was saying a lot of feedback that I would hear is that it was just everybody's characters were kind of, as David was saying, it was like already sort of halfway there. You could see, I could see this person playing this part, or it was kind of well cast in that way. And then David sort of helped sort of like shape it, and everybody, keep to their, you sort of keep it, like Jenna's the glue, sort of the whole idea of like making it all kind of fit together like Tetris.
Yeah, the other feedback I got, which was good, there's the feedback during the show, which is always awesome.
Yeah.
If it's a comedy and no one's laughing, then there's probably something wrong. But we got lots of great, even when Becky comes in at the end, the bride, and no one's seen her yet, and they have a full understanding that this is her place. Yeah. She walks in, the place is trashed, and the audience every night would be like, oh. So that's kind of the gold feedback, in the moment feedback. Yeah. But the other feedback that I had that was amazing is I had a discussion with some friends that were there, and they're like, it's so crazy because the characters are very extreme, but they're like, I know that person. Yes. Like, I know a girl that's like that. Mm-hmm. I know a guy that's like that. And then they would start having arguments. It's like, no guy's like that. It's like, no, I've dated 2 guys that are like that, So that's the other thing that you're doing something right, when people can identify with what's happening, even though it's a very extreme thing.
Yeah, well, Lucie, I agree with you. I agree with all of you. These characters are so relatable. Yes. You see them in clubs. You see them. You see just our generation just wanting to party, and it is all about the party at the end of the day.